Hello and welcome to Ethereum Classic Community Call number 21. Today is the 12th of April 2022. This week we have some interesting updates regarding the funding of Ethereum Classic, including an update from Bob Summerwill, which has been posted in the Discord channel, which we will jump right into. And we, I believe, have some other contributions from community members, which we'll also discuss in detail. So first of all, the news from Bob is that, as expected, Grayscale has ceased funding for Ethereum Classic via the Ethereum Classic Cooperative funding model, which they were previously donating 3% or some percentage of the fees that were made through the Grayscale ETCG fund. And that was previously going to ETC Co-op. But since of last month, that funding has ceased. And whilst this may sound like a negative, there's quite a big good news embedded in there, which is that Ethereum Classic Cooperative is currently sitting on about 5 million US dollars and several 100,000 worth of ETC. Also, Bob Summerwill was kind enough to confirm that the current burn rate is about 1.6 million USD. So that means that funding through ETC Co-op will continue for at least another 4 years, which I believe is significant positive news for Ethereum Classic, because it means that there's at least another 4 years of sort of time to guarantee that the protocol will be maintained by Ethereum Classic Cooperative, and that means another four years of time to reach a point where funding can be self-sustainable via other avenues such as community DAOs and just general price action increases that will cause a snowball effect into development and funding for Ethereum Classic. So I see this as confirmation for a big win for Ethereum Classic, and it's very exciting to be getting confirmation that 4 years of development is guaranteed now, essentially. So before I move on to the next point, was there any comment on Bob's recent announcement?
I think maybe we should talk about what he said his priorities were for that fund, which I have to scroll back in the chat here. But it looked like he was continuing to fund the endpoints for, I believe it's ethercluster.com. So that's a good public good. I believe he's funding, I don't know how many people for client maintenance, but that's also good. I can't remember if he said 3, 2. It looked like he was also going to hire a couple other people, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what that is. Sorry, I'm still scrolling up in the chat to see his exact.
So I can quote the burn rate comment, which was: total spend for ETC Co-op in 2021 was just under 500k US dollars. Budgeted spend for ETC Co-op in 2022 is 1.6 million. We have added the CoreGeth developers since 2021 and have budget for a further 3 hires during the year, plus a grants program. So yeah, as you mentioned, covering a lot of the basic and essential stuff, including public endpoints, and also, importantly, client development, and excitedly, a potential future grants program. So that's a lot of exciting stuff there.
Yeah, and I'm seeing just one other comment just a little bit below that, and it says his team has been working on the endpoints because they've been a little spotty recently. And so it looks like they switched to Rivet, which I think Rivet has pretty favorable pricing, so that's probably a smart move for improved reliability. And then it looks like I know they have some sort of faucet for Morador, but I think the Hebe swap guys actually put up a front end for that. I know that they were talking about doing that and maybe a monitor or something like that. But those were some of the other lifts that they were doing over there at Co-op. So I think it's important to just kind of note the scope of kind of their priorities, and hopefully it comes out with like a blog article or something like that that really clarifies where they're gonna allocate those funds and help the network.
Yeah, I think it's a big. I guess there was quite a lot of uncertainty about what this actually meant for ETC going forward, but this announcement really clears things up and is a big relief, I think. And yeah, as you mentioned, the Hebeswap guys are really kind of being their MVPs at the moment. They're really churning out lots of good apps and useful services on Ethereum Classic. So thanks to those guys.
Yeah, that I will say because we're working on some stuff, and yeah, their Mordor faucet was really nice. I don't know what's going on with Coddy. Coddy is the proof of authority testnet, but I haven't been able to find faucets or anything like that that are active. So so that might be something that we as a community need to look into polishing up, especially when we're trying to get developers over here to start propping things up. I think we really need to focus on those public goods that enable them to do that.
Yeah, and I think having a proof of authority testnet with a reliable faucet is going to be like one of the key things to help developers. I mean, proof of work testnets are notoriously spotty, and having something that's just like sound and reliable, and ideally with a fixed block time, is super useful for development. So yeah, good to identify that as a potential thing to help get funded or just built out, really. Do we know who the authorities on Coty are?
I remember I remember like Cody and Afri. I think Afri was like a big person related to that. I'm sure it's in their repo, but uh, you know, it's been since like 2020 since I really heard a lot about Cody.
Yeah, definitely a good thing to check out, and thanks for bringing that up. And I guess on the note of funding, we can now shift to the next topic on the agenda, which you brought to the table, Git Ronan. So why don't you go ahead with what you wanted to explain?
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a follow up. You know, Bob had signaled that they might have been defunded, and like you had mentioned, is we just didn't know if that was going to be a positive, negative. We didn't know about the 4-year commitment for development. So I agree that that's a great way to look at that. But in the interim, I had spoke I think on call 10 and call 11 about building a positive feedback loop where users, you know, pay fees for products on top of ETC, and those fees essentially fund open source development. And so, you know, that's something that I think I've at least talked about it for quite a while. There wasn't a lot of appetite back in the days because there was privately funded teams, but that seems to be changing as we look forward and to a network that's not relying on private funds, but rather transaction fees and use cases to build up the network and secure the network. So I think that there's going to be a lot of high value in that. You know, this will mean that you're going to have a lot more utility for your ETC. You'll see the DeFi stack essentially that you see on Ethereum. All of that stuff will start coming online. We already have some stuff in testnet through my Rolodex of developers. Started getting them excited about that when the merge happened in March. And so, you know, I think a lot of people are starting to see the value of ETC with that migration actually happening. And then I had also mentioned in Wyoming, here in the United States, they have made a subtype of LLCs for DAO LLCs. So in the United States, it's actually feasible to set up a legal entity that is a DAO LLC. We had spoke about kind of approaching this type of funding as a community in many ways, and this was just one of the ways. And I see a lot of value in that because it allows for 1099, signing of 1099, collecting of funds that are tax exempt. So there's just a lot of value in having a legal entity. There's also a little more, I guess, credibility to an organization like that, opposed to just a random wallet address. Um, it'll be registered with the IRS, for instance. You have that accountability in there. There's real people behind it that won't just disappear. So anyways, so that's in motion. I hired legal representation to make sure that that was all done correctly. The guys that actually set up, built that subtype for LLCs, those are the guys that are setting it up. So I think when all of that is said and done, they'll be excited that their name's on it, especially to help this network. And then in terms of the products that we're working on, we've figured out, how to collect the funds. We're leaning on Open Zeppelin audited smart contracts for those type of transactions. There's highly qualified developers that are working on this, guys that I've known working on Solidity since 2015. And then security experts that are at reputable companies. They obviously don't want their name to be known, but they're big players in the space and they see the value here. They want to stay anonymous because of their current employment, but they're excited about it. And so I'm excited that you guys will see that stuff start coming online. And hopefully that just kind of jump starts that type of funding model. I hope many other people attempt to try to do that. But it'll be nice to at least have this one in motion during 2022 and for the miner migration event. So when people are saying what's being built on ETC, you can definitely say that it'll have the Ethereum DeFi stack on it for sure, and hopefully an improved version of that with a lot less centralization, admin keys, all of that stuff. That's the goal. Any of the developers that I talk to working on this, they're in the same boat. They want to make sure that that stuff's done right. Trying to make sure at least anything that I touch, that it's in the ethos of this, cypherpunk and crypto in general. So anyway, so that's the update. You guys will see stuff go online, in the next couple months, something like that. Maybe less, but you guys will be well aware of it. And so I hope that that's good news on the back of the $5 million fund that Co-op has to work with as well.
Awesome. Thanks for the update, and I'm sure everyone really appreciates your hard work there. Just a couple of comments on that. As you were talking about the whole cypherpunk and, I guess, for lack of a better word, decentralized DeFi, this is something that I think is potentially under-recognized as a big potential win for Ethereum Classic, given that a lot of the ethos for decentralization was sort of ignored on Ethereum mainnet. A lot of the DeFi protocols have also inherited that lack of care for decentralization. And I think Ethereum Classic, as existing in response to centralization, has a unique opportunity to have not just a protocol, but also a ecosystem with a healthy desire and a DNA that is like primarily caring about decentralization.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think there's real value there. And I think there was value in a lot of the DeFi stack on Ethereum, right? They were the first ones really doing that. So we have an opportunity to improve where maybe they have centralized points there, if possible. And then and what's great is that we'll be able to connect to all of the other EVMs and have that interoperability that I think we've all seen for a very long time. So I think there's going to be trade-offs, where you can say, oh, I want to put these funds in a completely decentralized protocol, and you can come to Ethereum Classic for that. Or I want to go to, some very centralized EVM because I don't care about centralization or decentralization, and maybe it's speed or something like that is favored over there, and they can easily move through that. So we're looking at bridges as well. Obviously, there's federated bridges and then some other ones. So the decentralized element of bridges is pretty hard right now. I think Token Bridge tried to do that with a AMB messaging system. But I know like multi-coin, for instance, that has just taken off over the last year or two. I don't fully know all of the details of that, so I'll be looking into that. But we will be looking at ways to connect what we're propping up on Ethereum Classic and that DeFi stack that I speak of, and that positive feedback funding loop for development. And we will try to connect that to the greater EVM ecosystem, so that liquidity can come over to ETC with a higher velocity than it does today. So that's the goal. I hope that makes sense. Oh, and I'm sorry, and we had spoke about I think one of the challenges we have right now with this model, we had spoke about that on the 11 and 10 call, was distributing funds to people. And I think we'll probably lean on this model, what I'm trying to work with. I think we'll try to lean on Gitcoin to really start that up. So as funds start accumulating and all of that, and we identify the next thing that we need to prop up, we will you'll start seeing bounties go up over there, and that'll just kind of be how it starts up. That's the easy way to start up, and then we'll see how everything evolves. It's definitely a work in progress. It's a big lift, but I think in the long term, it's high value for the network. And once it gets going, it'll be that snowball effect.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to take advantage of something like Gitcoin, where all of the complicated stuff has already been done, basically. So definitely a good tool to leverage. And on top of that, Gitcoin does integrate with like public ledgers. So if in the future there was a need to potentially reference any donations made via Gitcoin, a future smart contract could take that into account using a storage proof.
Yeah, and this this is just kind of credit to the private teams that have been around ETC. I think ETC Labs was the one that really did the contract to get ETC supported in Gitcoin. So that type of integration and how kind of the whole the crypto verse, I think is how they call it these days, has adopted ETC in hard wallets, and it's just everywhere. It's integrated everywhere. So it's really nice that a lot of the foundational work is there, and I think we as a community have an opportunity to try to solve this funding problem, and I think this is one approach. There will be many, and whatever sticks, whatever works, it's going to be great for the network. We're already positioned. I think Donald says it all the time. A lot of people, think you have to do stuff to Ethereum Classic to add value. That's not the case. The protocol itself is in such a great position. It's really about building on top of it and starting to use the protocol. So I think we're at that stage. It's exciting, and just credit to the previous private teams that kept protocol parity, kept the clients updated, and just did a lot of those public goods that we all rely on. So want to make sure that they get their credit for doing that serious lifting that has gone in over the early years of Ethereum Classic.
Quite right, and we are definitely standing on the shoulders of giants. And even if all those participants are not still actively working on the protocol, their contributions do live on, and we are in a debt of gratitude to them. And for that matter, also the original Ethereum development team. So it's a whole bunch of people over time, and yeah, history will, I guess, look favorably on them. So just to sort of make it clear to our listeners that you have created a GitHub grants program, a Gitcoin grants program. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess you could look at that. I mean, we haven't set up anything, so the funds haven't been accumulated, but the intent is when the funds accumulate, that is where they'll start being issued to open source development in the form of just bounties there, and that'll really start the high priority builds. And then I think what I'm hoping is that maybe we'll get creative and start thinking of other ways to distribute those funds that aren't necessarily just Gitcoin, but that's in the future, so it's hard to talk about it right now in terms of like if we set up a formal DAO, like an on-chain DAO and all of that's just a lot of think that hasn't been done yet. So
yeah, I think as long as it works and there's no sort of protocol level point of centralization, then as many different approaches, the better, in my opinion. And I can see on this Gitcoin page that you have like a little roadmap, and I believe the domain ethereumclassic.com may be used for this project. Did you want to go through some of these ideas?
Yeah. So the thought is to use it so that .com is essentially, you can see DeFi dashboards like Zapper, Zapper.fi, I believe is one. What DeFi Llama, those type of, I don't know if DeFi Llama is a dashboard, but anyways, those DeFi management tools. The thought is that if you go to ethereumclassic.com, all of a sudden that's the spot where you can use your Ethereum. We have the .org that really gives you all of the information and knowledge about the network, and then you go to the .com, and all of a sudden you're putting your ETC to work and interacting with the protocol and network. And anything that's on that domain is funding that DAO, which funds the open source development for another product to go on that in that dashboard, and just that loop is the thought. So right now, bridge and swaps are really our priority, and then I think we'll try to get a tether over to ETC. Perhaps if multi-coin, I believe is the name of that bridge. I think that they have Bitcoin, so maybe we'll get Bitcoin. So what our goal is to have ETC USDT market and an ETC Bitcoin market, and the thought is that on a very easy level, low level thinking, people will do arbitrage between those markets and the centralized exchange, and that is on-chain volume immediately. And as that grows and people start, bots start turning on to do that arbitrage, what we will see is a jumpstart in the fee market for miners, and that's just the basic fundamental level of starting to build that type of volume on chain for Ethereum Classic.
Awesome stuff. Sounds really exciting. And where can people go to find out more if they wanted to get involved in this project?
I actually don't have anywhere for people to go right now, just because it's a pretty private lift right now. Once it's online, I imagine that we'll have something on ethereumclassic.com. There will be an article or something posted on the .org in the Discord, there will be conversation about it. And so just in the normal channels for Ethereum Classic, you'll be able to find info. And yeah, and on the product itself, it will likely have links.
Awesome. Thanks for that update. I also saw I don't know if this is you, Git Ronan, but there was a new GitHub repository called Classic Book.
Yeah, I did make that. I just made that just playing around with Donald. So I did. I forked the Ethereum book, and I set that up to just we can alter the text to be more accurate and reflect the Ethereum Classic in that book. Although they do have like a good thing on the hard fork. I think he was pretty accurate there. But anyways, so if anyone wants to join and contribute on that, that'd be something I think that would be fun for us to have of the Classic book. Mastering Ethereum Classic.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea, and actually makes a lot of sense given that the whole book is already sort of open source, and contributions can be done in a very similar way to the protocol itself.
Yeah, and I actually I was inspired. I bought Mastering Monero, and like they did their book like that. It's a really small one, but it was a nice read, and it was all just open contributions that built up that book. And then I saw that the Ethereum book was open source, and that you could just fork it, and we could make those adjustments as a community. So anyways, the thought is, we can get that up, and then and maybe drop it on the .org. Just so it's there, adjust the covers and all that, and really, give our narrative in there. So if anyone wants to join in on that, I got to see if it's an open public repo. I think it is, but I'll make sure. And just go on in and start submitting pull requests and adding value there. That'd be great. Does it make sense to have that in the Ethereum Classic repo? Probably not, right? Maybe just a link for it.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have the Classic Book org and as its own separate thing. And if people would like to contribute that, they can go to github.com/classicbook/classicbook.
I do have a question for Ronin. So it is related to Web3, and I was just reading an article saying that blockchains currently don't have interoperability. So do you think that future designs will look like overlay networks where you can move assets from one chain to another, like routing assets? And is this like the scope for the DAO to make ETC more interoperable with other chains?
Yeah, that's definitely within scope, because what we like is there's just no token market on ETC right now. And so in my opinion, coming from the exchange space, I think a big added value is getting the stablecoin ecosystem that already exists, at least giving them an ability to migrate over to ETC. So, it's a different thing for them to directly issue the funds on ETC, which I do believe they'll do in the future. But in the meantime, at least getting synthetics pegged over to ETC. And I think the challenge is to do that in a decentralized way. I've been researching it a little bit this last week. And I've seen, like I mentioned earlier, was Token Bridge did something with a AMB messaging system. I've seen, I think, I don't know anything about multi-coin. I haven't looked, or multi-chain, as I think it's named. I haven't looked at that product, but I know it's very popular, and it's integrated in a lot of networks. So I got to understand how that works. The other thing is ChainBridge from ChainSafe, but that's federated, so that's centralized right there. So the goal is to try to get that set up in a way that's decentralized. Maybe it won't be at the very start, but to work on improving that. So that is definitely in scope of trying to bring that interoperability, because I think that's what we need to get the big projects over to ETC. Also, another messaging that I hope to start hearing is, we have this Ethereum moving to proof of stake, and we've talked about the miners and what they're going to do, but the projects on top of Ethereum might want to hedge their project over on ETC and have that ability to migrate over just in case something went wrong in the proof of stake migration. So that hedge should probably be vocalized to some of the bigger projects out there that are high value on ETH today.
So when you are looking at this, are you more looking at I don't know, the high-end technical stuff, or are you looking at ways to increase adoption, or just both, and I don't know, find a common ground? Because in my opinion, I think we should look at spaces or DeFi apps that are really popular and people want.
Yeah, I just kind of where we are in this project, because it's kind of new that we were getting in motion with the thought that co-op was going to be defunded. I'm currently, the priority for me is to make sure that we get Tether over, and it would be great if we got Bitcoin, a synthetic Bitcoin over, just because I think that those are the primary markets for ETC. So just having the ability to trade ETC to those on chain with no custody, no KYC, all that junk. I think that's a high value, and I think that's kind of fundamental for markets on this network. So that's really my priority. I understand you're asking kind of forward thinking, but I just don't think that in the process right now that we're there to where I can even prioritize other stuff other than those type of lifts.
Yeah, those are great.
I just wanted to riff on the point you made about vocalizing the hope to get existing projects to migrate to ETC. And I think one project that would be worth reaching out to is MakerDAO, because as far as I remember, one of the founders of MakerDAO was publicly against the hard fork, the original Ethereum Classic hard fork. So, or I should say the DAO hard fork. So they may be open to deploying on ETC.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially given that is the tether of stablecoins made, in whatever in their way. The tether is the backed by a dollar. They're the stablecoin that collateralized by whatever digital assets or whatever it is. I can't remember. It's been a minute since I read on it, but yeah, that would be great to get that over. And if they're not open to that, our network is, we can build that over here as well. So, and hopefully we can build it maybe in a less centralized way. So those are some thoughts for sure. I just think that the biggest stablecoin, the most liquid stablecoin is Tether, and getting that over onto our chain, even if it's just a fraction of what Tether is, its total supply, just getting some of that over to our chain is going to be a huge added value. So
Absolutely.
but
And I think it will set in motion a domino effect, really, because if one issuer starts listing, then that's going to incentivize others to do the same.
Yeah, especially the smaller stable coins like Stably, I think is one. USDT maybe or no, not US. Anyways, I
Yeah.
can't even remember. All these tickers are the same these days. But yeah, some of these smaller ones, it's like how do you differentiate yourself and capture a network, right? How do you get that adoption? So hopefully, and that's what I was saying is that at the start they won't directly issue onto our network, especially with a lower hash rate like this. I think as the miners keep turning on, our price keeps going up. We'll start seeing them seriously look at issuing directly onto Ethereum Classic, and hopefully those smaller stable coins take note and hop on the opportunity fast.
Right. The first stable coin that deploys to Ethereum Classic will be the only stable coin that's deployed to a large proof of work smart contract platform by sometime this year. So it's a massive opportunity to differentiate themselves, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and it
And
essentially will then
difficult.
be it'll be the primary volume in the DeFi stack, right? So there is a great first mover advantage. However, I know I someone mentioned that I mean this was in a conversation probably like a month ago in the Discord, but someone had mentioned that USDC Coinbase's stablecoin has grown substantially faster than Tether in recent years in terms of adoption. So there is an ability to beat Tether if you make those moves, and so we'll see. Maybe one of those guys will come over first and try to become the flagship stablecoin for ETC.
Right, and what have they got to lose? Right, it's merely a case of redeploying and allocating some tiny fraction of the vast amount of capital already deployed. So it's almost a like win-win scenario for a lot of these, especially the smaller coins.
Yeah, I'd love to see a robust stablecoin and ETC markets, and then I'm not sure about a wrapped Bitcoin market. I've never really played with those. I don't know if that's if that's a worthwhile thing, but we'll definitely explore that because having the ability to trade Bitcoin on the ETC network, a Bitcoin synthetic would be great as well. Oh, and you know what would be another great one is the ETH ETC market. I think that would be a high volume market as well. So those will probably
Absolutely.
be the priorities right there.
It'll be interesting to try and figure out what these assets will be called, because it's like wrapped ether is already a thing kind of on Ethereum. So what would it be called on Ethereum Classic? And would there be like classic wrapped ether or classic wrapped Bitcoin?
Yeah. I was actually thinking of that when we were looking at contracts and naming, and like naming conventions and everything. And as an example, like if you go to the Aave markets and the lending markets there, they have like a little trailing thing on the end of whatever the market is. So I don't know what it will be. That'll probably be something that we set in our code. I mean, I was thinking of using like for bridged ones was using B in there, but then you worry about like BUSD, the Binance chain, right? So there's definitely it'd be great if there was some community thought on that. If there is an opinion on what you guys think it should be named, we certainly can put that into the bridges. So when it's creating the pegged contract on token on Classic, it is named to that convention. So if you guys have opinions, please vocalize them. Oh, I didn't mean silent now. Keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
I just meant
Waiting to see if there's any
vocalize in
comments.
Discord. I'll read it if you guys do have opinions on that.
if there is any more comments on this ETC DAO initiative, whether it's this specific naming convention or anything else, please feel free to post a comment or drop a voice message in the community call.
Oh, there's one element that I haven't actually talked about just because it's not something that's actively being worked on right now. And that was I think I dropped a note in that on that Gitcoin roadmap, but that was a mining pool where the mining fees, because I think people collect like 1% mining fees in the pools, also go to that open source development. And this was thought in a way that the DeFi stack is users of the protocol funding open source development to give them value back by getting more DeFi protocols and more financial products for their ETC. So that those people are kind of paying for the future products in that way. With the miners, a mining pool would enable them the ability to, if they wanted to contribute to funding development. And I think those funds would be great for going to client maintainers and client improvement. And so anyway, Co-op right now is paying the client maintainers, and so that would be a way to kind of alleviate that burden off of them, and also maybe bring in more client maintainers that are directly interacting with kind of the miners, opposed to kind of having that middleman of Co-op have saying, hey, prioritizing what needs to be updated in the clients. So anyways, so that's the thought on allowing miners to also participate in this type of voluntary use-based funding mechanism.
Yeah, another great idea, and something that I think for a small donation that would otherwise be going to some kind of mining pool operator, miners can actually increase the value of their holdings indirectly by ensuring that the asset they're mining has future value via maintained protocols.
Yeah, and I've heard that that Geth is pretty good. It'll be interesting. I think of that idea of, for Mantis, for instance, right? Like Mantis was trying to do that treasury to fund their client. Well, a mining pool with a 1% might, they can put up a proposal to try to get some of those funds to get Mantis online, for instance. So that would just be a different client. And maybe like features that miners want. I don't know. I know that you can signal inside of the clients, so they could likely have their own kind of little signaling thing of features they'd like for fundings, or like approval of proposals or not. So there's ways to get miners actively involved in that type of pool. Plus, they don't have to allocate 100% of their hash rate, right? They could just put a portion of their hash rate. And if they don't like what's going on, they don't put their hash rate there. So that's what I think is a great compromise to kind of what that treasury was trying to achieve. And this is a little, I think it's more decentralized, and miners have a much bigger vote and say in that.
Right.
So
in that sense, it could also even be used as a means to gauge sentiment from miners in terms of what kind of features they are looking at supporting on Ethereum Classic, and at the same time donating towards those features. And you could have different addresses for different mining pools that indicate, oh yeah, I want to support SHA-3, or I want to support this future hard fork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it allows it really gives the miners voice, and it's it's no longer in that regard. We're not dealing with GitHub comments or Discord comments when we're trying to figure out what the miners really want. So.
Right, and instead of voting with coins, it's voting with hash rate.
Yep. Yeah, so those are just some thoughts I had while trying to solve in my head. It was okay, if co-op's disappearing, how do we solve that? How do we solve those things in a way that it's clear? Leaning on private funding like that, it has an expiration date. So how do we create funding models that not only don't have an expiration date, but they grow over time because it keeps adding value, and it's that positive feedback loop. And then all of a sudden, it's completely sustainable. ETC will have a huge war chest for all of those Solidity developers that are out there that are looking to do bounties and be self-employed and just contribute to open source networks. That's the big goal.
Yep, and by shedding the reliance on any central point, then it can exist forever, literally.
Yeah, it's future-proofing the development on the network, and it's exciting to think of, in 30 years or whatever, of we'll set this stuff up now, but it'll be crazy what's being built later on, and and the ecosystem of development that's going on. Kids will be learning Solidity, don't have to go get a W-2 job, and could just directly start trying to get bounties and doing work. So it's just going to be a cool ecosystem around ETC when all of that evolves.
Exactly, and I think evolves is the key word there, because if you look at alternative chains like Ethereum, because they have a central war chest via the pre-mine and Ethereum Foundation allocating those funds, there's no incentive to evolve this kind of sustainable mechanism. So Ethereum Classic, on yet another front, can potentially have some kind of killer feature in the form of sustainability long term.
Yeah, I agree. And then there will be predictable funding, right? You can look at the volume of protocols and say, oh, those, the open source funding pool is generating this much. That allows you to build an entire software outfit that is dedicated on trying to get those proposals and add value to the network. So in terms of businessmen, they can plan and organize around trying to just work on Ethereum Classic, and they know there is just steady funding that is there for the taking. So right now, that is not the case. It's spotty funding, and you don't really know if it's going to get renewed. All of that, or right previously it was you had to do a 1099 with an organization. That's just won't be the case. It'll be open for entrepreneurial tech people to say, you know what, we're going to build around this protocol, and we're going to make this the best protocol in the world. And we're positioned in a great way. I think Donald does a great job of talking about the intrinsic value of Ethereum Classic today, and really all we really need to do is start building on top of it and increasing those use cases, and adoption is just going to roll in. We have the ethos, we have the unique story. We just, so much is going right for this network, and so this will just be another example of Classic doing things the correct way.
Absolutely. I also wanted to pick up on one of Bob's updates, and that is that not only is there 5 million USD sitting around to be spent in the next 4 years or more, but they also have several 100,000 worth of ETC. So if Donald's prediction comes right, which is almost certain to happen in the next 4 years, for example, this is not investment advice, but that amount of ETC would potentially 100x, meaning that not only does it have 4 years, but another 10 years, but another 20 years. So even just basic client maintenance seems like it's in a pretty good position through ETC Co-op alone, let alone the additional stuff that's going to come from private efforts such as this DAO initiative and others.
Yeah, and co-op may hang around. Co-op might be the people that are receiving those those bounties, right? So they'll have a funding mechanism. They'll be able to capture those funds as well. So and who knows? Maybe ETC Lab, these other IOHK, maybe these guys that walked away, they can come back. That's that's the best part about this network is it's all open. And so when there's that big stack of funds there, you know, they'll plan around it. So it's clear they had interest in the past. They may not have wanted to front the bill, but if use cases are fronting the bill and then ETC is appreciating in value and in adoption, I don't see any reason why those old teams aren't going to come back and we'll get that intellectual capital back active in the network. So that's an exciting thing. And then I think it's really exciting to think of all of the people that aren't working on Ethereum Classic right now, and they've been working on ETH or any other EVM, and they're going to start coming over here and adding value that isn't even on our radar. So it's going to be great to see the development ecosystem just exponentially grow, and we will see the price grow. We will see the fee market grow. Miners are going to be making a lot more money than just the block reward. There's a lot of positives that are getting ready to happen for this network. It's exciting.
Absolutely, I can't underestimate the positive nature of this update from Bob. Like 4 years of runway is an awesome thing to have, and yeah, it's going to be an awesome 4 years and beyond.
I just want to add that I think it's great to have such an open mechanism where miners can pay with a very small fee for development, because this opens up Ethereum to business, and even miners can make a lot more by supporting the protocol. So for them it's like an investment, like you pay a very small fee, let's say for 6 months, and the results you'll have in 6 months will be very beneficial for more for the next year, right? So I think building ways to open ETC for business, I think this is great, and this is the path forward.
Yeah, and I think what I like about that mining pool model is if they go to a different mining pool, they're already paying that fee. So for a miner, the fee is going somewhere, right? So what it might do is if there is this option, they will certainly get hash rate over there, so it'll pull hash rate away from some of the other higher hash rate mining pools. But maybe the other existing mining pools will then adopt this model so that people stay in their pool as well. So hopefully it kind of has that cascading effect. And then client maintainers now, people like Isaac and all them, they have security on funding. So now, they don't have to worry about, their mortgage and everything like that. Now they can plan to dedicate themselves to really working on the clients. And so that's very exciting in my opinion. Also, I wanted to give credit on the seed of that idea actually came from an ETC Labs repo where Luke Williams put up, which was an open ETC pool. That's where the foundation of that idea came from, and it was actually forked from someone in the Ethereum network. So I don't know I don't know if that repo is a good repo to work off of, but that idea has not been fully explored. It's just at its seed stage right now, but that's where it came from. So credit to those guys.
Yeah, thanks to all the contributors. And I would also mention this was Part of the related and part of the treasury discussion that has been ongoing, I'm sure we're all aware of it, but one of the many ideas floated about trying to get alternative sources of funding via miners is some kind of donation, and this very much fits within that paradigm. And I guess looking back, it seems like we're in a situation where a treasury is completely unnecessary at this point, or at least, yeah, it seems like not worth the trade-off at all.
Yeah, I think this is a better approach because it's building use cases on top of the protocol and accomplishing the same thing, and we're not adjusting the protocol or the monetary policy or any of that junk. So it keeps that stability that we have on the protocol level, and then tackles the problem, the funding problem, by increasing adoption and the value of the protocol itself. So I think it's a win-win on that, and hopefully it gets traction. The best thing is that if it's not working out very well, no one has to use the products, right? That's the benefit of all of this, is that they'll just die off if they're not adding value. Then something else will. So I certainly hope this isn't the only approach to funding. I hope other people come to the table and start thinking of ways to do it. But this is what I think is a logical approach right now, and that's why I'm willing to put hours and capital into getting it set up. I think it'll be a high value for this network.
Yeah, and I hope once it proves itself, there may be other potential benefactors, and we should also not forget the ETC Community Fund, which seems like this would be a good candidate to experiment with funding via.
Unfortunately, Co-op hasn't signaled anything about what they are planning to do with that fund. So I'm also hoping that maybe this year they may set a roadmap for that fund, and I don't know, see if it can produce any results.
I would really love to have a discussion about what the next steps are for ETC in terms of protocol upgrades and future forks, especially in light of the merge and the SHA-3 debate, et cetera, and yeah, with this new announcement, it seems like a good place to get a discussion teed off about where ETC is going. So I extend open invitations to anyone that's interested in talking about that.
I think one priority when we start talking about that is that we should start bringing up the fee market and the just on Ethereum we've seen it go rampant. So those will be issues that we'll have to deal with in the future. So just that type of forward thinking, fee market, integration with what are the roll-ups and L2 stuff. So side chains, all that. It'll be exciting. I'm excited. I'm glad that that the protocol discussion will start going that way. That'll be very productive.
Yeah, Ethereum Classic has almost a unique opportunity here for the possibility of, via L2s like optimistic rollup and others, to slowly ramp up adoption such that there is never really a serious fee market problem, because everyone's using L2 and only making a small number of transactions on the base layer in order to get into L2, and then settling larger transactions on the first layer, a la Donald's future vision. So we are at the hour, and there are a couple more points to go through, but I just wanted to open up any other final comments on this future funding discussion and or future steps for Ethereum Classic to the current participants in the community call. And if you're on YouTube, I'll check the comments there.
I wanted to ask Ronin to see if I get it correctly. So, classic DAO is a project that there is a group of DeFi developers and builders that want to build some dApps on ETC, and they're going to send part of the fees of those dApps to a DAO or a fund, and that fund is going to be used to build more dApps. Is it something like that, the model? Just to check if I understood it.
You're on mute, Ronan.
Yeah, was I supposed to be talking? Was someone asking me something?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm Donald.
If someone's asking me something, it's silent on my side still.
Okay, well, there are no other comments in the chat. But yeah, I believe, I think you got the idea, Donald. Basically, the idea is just to fund projects that will then also potentially fund back into a DAO fund that would then future snowball, and more projects could be funded through that mechanism in an unofficial way.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to make a note of a comment from Werner that was posted about ECIP, the SHA-3 debate. So, Werner, did you want to mention that yourself, or should I just read out your comment?
Sure, I can. Just let me find my notes. Yeah. So back then, when there was this discussion about eliminating the proposal due to basically formal issues, there were also some problems with the ECIP were mentioned, and so I posted a few contributions to this the issues thread. That was on February 21, if you want to look it up, about things that I found lacking or that need updating and so on. Basically, it was 4 areas. One was simply technical issues with the ECIP, like incomplete specification and such. Then that the motivation, the items listed there, that were kind of obsolete and needed updating, plus the main motivation that was being proposed by the proponents of this proposal at that time, at least. This wasn't mentioned, so motivation section would need updating. And also, given that this would have a massive impact on the ecosystem, the compatibility and transition issues that this would bring with it would also have to be discussed. This is completely missing at the moment. I'm not saying that this would everything I would have to be crammed into this ECIP. Maybe there could be a companion ECIP. Also, I'm not saying that I mean, I'm not quite sure actually where this is going. It seems that interest in this proposal has pretty much died. So I'm not suggesting that somebody makes a great effort just to find out that basically it's dead already. But in any case, if anybody wants to move this forward, then those things will have to be addressed. And the 4th item is that, I mean, when you're doing a new algorithm, then it would also make sense to plan ahead a little and think of potential collisions or conflicts with other coins that might also adopt the same algorithm. and you might even find yourself in a situation where the other one is bigger than you, which will bring us back just to the old fear of living as a minority coin. So it would make sense to engineer some degree of protection into the new algorithm. That was my fourth item there. So yes, these are basically things. If somebody is interested in making this thing actually, at least to completing it, let's say, put it like this, and make it a proper proposal, then these things would have to be addressed.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. And it seems that with the new sort of post-merge reality, the proposal kind of needs a new set of assumptions to be working from as to whether the trade-off still makes sense and what the timers are. And we've discussed this quite a lot, so I think we can leave it there for now as we are reaching the hour. But if there are any other final comments about anything, this is the time and the floor is open. If someone wants to bring something up, please go ahead. All right, well, thank you for joining us for this call, and we will see you again next week. Thanks for joining and for contributing to ETC. Bye-bye.